Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mike Ernst.
Good afternoon. I'm excited to share with you today a project we've been working on at MAS for the last year called the Accidental Skyline. New York is a skyscraper city. Individually, these tall buildings stand as emblems of some of New York's most defining architectural styles and moments of historic significance. Collectively, they comprise our city's famous skyline, and their soaring heights are often embedded with symbolism. Tall buildings are a defining characteristic of New York City and should be embraced both as an important part of the city's heritage and its future economic success. However, we need to think carefully about how and where this type of development happens in the city so that our collective resources, our parks, open spaces, and neighborhoods are not diminished. MAS's Accidental Skyline report, released last year, brought attention to a series of new towers going up on and around 57th Street. 6 of these buildings are pictured here. The majority of these luxury residential buildings are going up as of right, meaning that they're built without public review or any required impact analysis. Our report shows how these towers will impact one of our greatest public spaces, Central Park. One of the most defining and celebrated features of Central Park is the experience of being in an urban oasis surrounded by the city's skyline. But because of its importance, it's critical that the development that does occur near the park is done right in a way that minimizes impacts. MAS has long been a strong advocate for Central Park. In the late 1980s, MAS fought against a proposal pictured here for the former Coliseum site at Columbus Circle, the current site of the Time Warner Center. As part of that campaign, MAS created photo simulations showing the shadow the development would have cast on Central Park. MAS also organized the Stand Against the Shadow event, where hundreds of people under black umbrellas stood in the area of the park which would have been shadowed by the proposed tower. Today, we're able to demonstrate the impacts of development in new ways. These renderings show the size and scale of the buildings going up and around 57th Street in the context of the existing conditions. What's surprising about these buildings is that they're among the tallest in the city, taller in fact than One World Trade by highest floor. The buildings are dramatically shaping the city's skyline. Like I said, they're really tall. And the studies MAS undertook also made clear that these new towers would create shadows along the southern end of Central Park throughout the day. Following the release of the report, we were often asked, where else in the city might this happen? To help better answer this question, we sought to map out the available development rights in the city. To give you a sense of how many of these buildings are able to be so tall requires an understanding of floor area ratio, or FAR, the principal bulk regulation controlling the scale of buildings in New York City. A higher FAR generally allows larger buildings, and lower FAR allows smaller buildings. If a property owner has a building that is not built to the maximum FAR, the difference can be sold to neighboring properties as air rights. The transfer of these air rights allows buildings to become taller and bigger than the city zoning code would otherwise allow. Air rights can be sold through mechanisms like zoning lot mergers, or if the building is a historic landmark, through landmark transfers, both of which were used in the case of the buildings along 57th Street. MAS utilized ArcGIS and CartoDB to map the city's Map Pluto dataset, which was recently released online for free, which is great, to make these interactive online maps illustrating where development rights are available in all 5 boroughs of New York City. In the maps, gray means a building is built to the max FAR, or perhaps higher for some older buildings. Yellows, oranges, and reds show where there are available development rights. You can click on individual parcels, which will pull up details about the site, like whether it is a lot in a historic district or if the building is an individual landmark, what the zoning is, the maximum allowed FAR, and available air rights. The info window also includes an image from Google Street View. For example, here's the Times Center, where we are today. Or here's MAS's new office, both of which don't seem to have any available air rights. These maps are part of a larger body of work on the Accidental Skyline here at MAS. We'll continue to update and improve the maps, along with continuing to advocate for specific policy recommendations meant to protect parks from shadows, improving transparency for zoning lot mergers, and ensuring greater levels of public benefits. So whether you live in Manhattan, or Brooklyn, or the Bronx, or Queens, or Staten Island, take a moment to check out our maps at mas.org/accidental-skyline and see what you can learn about your neighborhood.